Voila, my beautiful and amazing people. Good evening. It's your girl Rachel K, and we are live with another exciting episode of Ladies with Stories. Good evening, guys. How are you doing? I hope you had a beautiful week. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And of course, Friday means weekend. It's time to wine, relax, and refresh again. Hope you had a great week. Hope you had a great week. If this is your first time of joining us, this is Ladies with Stories. This is a platform where we share all the beautiful and amazing stories with the aim of inspiring and empowering women to succeed. And we are so grateful to have you with us tonight on this platform. So please feel free to like, share, comment, and let other friends know that we are live. And for today's episode, we are live only on YouTube. So please go share with your friends, let them know we are live, help us share the link with others, tell them we are live. And if you have questions or comments, you can drop it for us, and our guest is right here in the studio, and we'll be going quick. All right, guys, so please, I'll give us a few minutes and then we bring her up, and then we go straight to our story time for today. How have you been? It's been a while, but we are grateful to God and we are back, happy and alive. So let me know if you can see it, if it's playing properly, if you need any adjustment, do let us know, okay? So let Okay, so I'll just go quickly and read through our biography, and then we just bring up our guest. All right, guys? All right, so meet our guest for today. Liz Clifton is the founder of Family Dog Connection Limited and creator of the Take Three for You mission. She's also the author of Loving You Nature Relaxation, Loving You, Midlife Poetry Collection, and Nature's Wisdom Oracle Card Book. A self love and social justice advocate, Liz helps people reconnect with calm, confidence, intuition, and intuitive living. After living a 15 years dysfunctional relationship in 2014, Liz began healing alongside her Romanian rescue dog Ziara, rebuilding trust, communication, self belief for herself and her family. Her journey through burnout, self health challenges, loss, and caregiving shaped her holistic approach to well being. Today, she's an intuitive guide, teacher, and mentor, offering coaching, energy healing, animal communications, and workshops focused on mental health, self awareness, and connected communications. Through her work and her TEDx talk, Green Means Calm, Liz is on a mission to empower millions to cultivate calm, clarity, and self connection, and to embrace daily acts of self love. So, with a round of applause, guys, are you all ready? Please make welcome our guest tonight. Thank you so much, Liz, for joining. We're so grateful to have you. Welcome to Ladies with Stories, and we are so ready to hear your story.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And I love that applause. That's a great feature.
Oh, welcome. All right, we just read through your biography, and I can't wait to hear your story. I know I've read a brief of it, but I really want to hear your story, how you walked through your burnout season, how you went through the divorce, the miscarriages, and everything, and how you have this very big, gracious smile on your face. We can't wait to hear. So please feel free and share your story with our community. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And it's a pleasure to be able to support because one of the big things I believe is that all the experiences we go through, there's a purpose. And for me, that purpose is then supporting other people who perhaps are in
Absolutely.
the midst of any of those different areas. So, begin at the beginning. Okay. So, I'm going to take you back a good nearly 24 years now.
Whoa.
And so I'm 22 years old at that point, and I've just had my very first daughter. And at that point, there were what I now, in hindsight, would see as warning signs and, and red flags right back then when she was just a little newborn baby. And my ex partner at that point was just so frustrated with her. He was frustrated with the sound of her crying and just everything that he had going on. His stress was up here, and so he was then, not happy with just general babiness, babies
Yeah.
being babies, that beautiful innocence and that lovely, like, reliance they have on you.
Yeah.
So it's that thing that actually, many of us women, we take that as like it's such a gift and it's such a beautiful thing. But that was really frustrating for him. And I can remember she was only a few weeks old, I think, at the time. And I left the house that we were living in and I phoned my mum and I was like, oh, this isn't working. This just doesn't feel right to me. And she's like, oh, it's fine. It'll be fine. He's just stressed. And I was like, okay. And we kind of carry on through the years. About 18 months later, I give birth to my second daughter, and things are still pretty much the same.
Crazy.
So by this point, all my time and energy is in my two daughters. And that's how I then spent that next 15 years of that relationship, is just focusing on the kids. Right towards the end, before I left the relationship, I had my third daughter. So by this point, I'm in my mid 30s and I've been, working, I've been looking after the children and just living through them, everything for them. And I think one of those big things that led to me really being like that was that self-sacrificial kind of thing that I learned was a good thing when I was a kid. It's like you put everybody else first. And then if there's anything left over for you, brilliant. But 9 times out of 10, no. If you've put everyone else first, there's very little energy left
Live for
for
you.
you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I can now look back and I can see all of this and I can see, well, no wonder I ended up in each of these different burnouts. And each time I would be there and I would be exhausted. I had a time where I was like sort of taken to my parents and they looked after me for a couple of days. That was my ex-mother-in-law. She looked after me for a couple of days, in the next burnout. And then I just got back onto that hamster wheel and I was just putting out the fires as they appeared, living, working, looking after the kids. And just there was no joy in that space aside from each of the children. Everything that they did, I loved. I had, the beautiful, loving relationships with them. But each moment, each breath, there was less and less of me being able to be there. There was less of me even knowing how I was feeling. So I was then at that point working 3 jobs, looking after my kids in the day. And it was during a night job that I was working, and I was working in a store and I was, putting the food on the shelves in the nighttime. And I was then going back home and feeding, like breastfeeding my youngest to sleep. So she'd be awake till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. when I got back from the store. And then I would feed her and she'd go to sleep. And one night, one of the ladies I was working with, she said, oh, how come you're still breastfeeding her? Because she was nearly 2 years old. And they found it really strange. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I kind of didn't think about doing anything different. So that night, my mind started working and it said, oh, actually, you do have a choice. So
Yeah.
because in the day she was eating food, she was drinking water, so she didn't need the breast milk for her nutrition. She was getting everything from her other food. So it was really like a comfort thing. So that night I went home and I just gave her water from a little cup, and she snuggled up next to me. She fell asleep. So
Mm,
from then on, I stopped giving her that feed. She very often was still awake when I got home, but I was no longer, providing the milk as well. So gently, supporting her. And over time, she did start to sleep a bit earlier. But what that kicked off for me was then an understanding, like a remembering, a tiny, tiny bit of remembering me.
yeah.
Oh, choices. Yes. Okay. I do have choices. Yes, Elizabeth, you do have choices. And I then started to look at everything in my life and started to go, I can actually choose this relationship that there wasn't really a relationship. I slept on the floor in my daughter's bedroom. We didn't speak. It was just anger, and stress and things. So I then started to take steps to leave the relationship. And that took time, took a lot of courage. There was a lot of tricky, like family court things to
Yeah.
move through to eventually be allowed to leave. But I was eventually then allowed to leave. And that was probably about 9 months it took from the beginning to be allowed to leave the home, find a rented home that I could stay in, and with the children. And so that then became that beginning of that stepping away, just from that one moment, that one tiny question,
Mm,
which then began this big thing. And as we moved, and I then moved into another home, because there was the place I was renting, they were going to sell it. So I then was in a space where I had to find somewhere else that I could move to. And by then I was with my now husband. And so we then were looking at where we could afford to move. And we were in England before, and then we moved over to Wales. So it's not a huge space, but it's officially a different country. So it felt like a big move.
yeah. It
Like
was,
when you put it in perspective, it's a really tiny move.
no, it was like something different for you. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. So again, that took a lot of courage to step into and to step away from those spaces. And that was when I then adopted our first Romanian street dog. And she was absolutely petrified of people. She didn't have any self confidence. She had no trust in anyone. And the shelter that we got her from, she was, you know, she was only coming out at night when there was nobody else around. So she was very fearful. She'd come out at night into the little outside bit of her cage area. She'd eat her food, she'd drink her drink, she'd do her business, and then she'd creep back into the dark bit. So she had no contact with any other animals, or any people. And they were so worried about her that they were thinking of putting her to sleep. So as soon as I heard that, I was like totally invested in rescuing her, supporting her and bringing her home. And luckily, so was my husband. So within a few days, we brought this beautiful but very, very scared
Sorry,
creature.
could I interrupt you here?
Yeah, of course.
So this very husband you're speaking about, was it the person you left or the current one you're with?
Yeah, the current one that I am with.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Let's be
that's
sure.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think that would have happened with the other one. Very different people.
Okay, all right. You can carry on.
Oh, thank you.
You're well.
Um, and so we brought her home, and we then realized just what we'd kind of taken on board, because she was so fearful and she was really quite large.
Oh wow.
So she was like, we thought she was going to be like really small in the pictures. And she's like a good medium sized dog.
Mm,
So one that, you'd have like shepherds would have. for like helping look after the sheep with wolves and things like that. So she's quite a good size. And she was very, very fearful of people. So it then took a lot of patience. First of all, just to get her in the house on that first day, but then to begin to build up her confidence. So I would spend hours and hours just sat on the floor with her in silence. And that's where, for both of us, our healing began. In that silent, unconditional, not wanting anything from each other, just being there and sharing that space together.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of rehabilitation for both of us. And like at the time, I didn't realize, that just as I was supporting her to get more confident, to begin to trust, she was doing the same for me. Because at that point, I had very little self confidence. I certainly didn't trust people because of all those previous experiences that I'd gone through.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's where we began to just help each other. Like initially, it was silent. Then I remember the first time I heard her voice. It was one evening when we had like a full moon and she was howling. And I think it was probably the first time she'd ever used her voice anywhere because she finally felt safe
Oh,
to to be herself.
but imagine the joy of hearing that sound.
It was so good. It was so good. And even that on its own, like, is such a big healing thing. This beautiful creature who had been so like poorly supported in her life up until that point was then finally able to actually make those natural sounds, to be heard, to feel safe enough to share, hey, I'm here and I see you, Moon. I'm greeting you, to want to be able to do that was amazing. And I think for myself, as I then like began to look back over my own journey, I was like, oh, each of those moments I spent with her was getting me ready so that I could then be a space like this to
Mm-hmm.
be able to share, to support,
Absolutely.
to say, do you know what? Your voice matters. And it doesn't matter what's happened to the point before that moment when you begin to feel comfortable enough, to feel safe enough, confident enough to speak, to say, hey, I'm here.
Here.
This is me. That's massive, absolutely massive. And yeah, I'm so grateful to her for being that part in the journey. Yeah, sorry, we could support each other together.
And you did. You guys did support yourself, and thank God for her. We have you here. I'm going to ask you to take us through your forgiveness journey. Considering coming out from such a relationship into this place where you talk about calm, you talk about peace and all that. How did that forgiveness journey get you to this point?
Yeah, thank you. So, the biggest forgiveness thing for me was actually being able to forgive myself for stepping into that old relationship, to forgive myself for staying in that relationship for as long as I did,
Hmm.
and to then forgive myself for stepping out of it from my kids' point of view.
That's true.
Because there's so much research now, even more than there was back then, um, into what that does, into how that shifts their stability, their foundations, what they see love as being and what love becomes to them. It's yeah, that's been really big. But being able to like, first of all, it was accepting what had happened, acknowledging each and every decision that I'd made, um, to have ended up in each of those spaces. And then taking that responsibility of it as well. So each of these things, they're really quick to say, they were not so quick to do.
Absolutely, I can understand that. And how did you find yourself? How long did it take for you to find yourself? I know Zara came in and helped you through a new relationship started. So how long did it take before getting to those relationships, finding Zara, and then becoming who you are today?
Ooh, so 18 months is what came to mind for the beginning parts, to actually begin to be able to see myself. So that was definitely from moving out of the relationship to then it probably took about a year to acknowledge what had actually happened and to be able to say, okay, this is how it is. And this is my new like baseline to work from. And from there, that's when she then came into my life. And then that was probably that initial bit was about an 18-month journey to really setting the foundation of how I am now. So I began to be able to speak, to others. I began to be able to trust other people. Um, and that was where I did a lot of like self development work, lots of like meditation, walking. Walking was a really good one because then anything that comes up as you're walking, it's almost like you're moving through it at the same time. So
Mm,
you're physically shifting your body, you're physically helping to shift, the memories, the emotions, um, and then moving through, lots of different things since then. Um, so even towards like the end of last year, I completed like my social justice yoga training. That was huge. That uncovered, so much more, which leads you, even deeper back into yourself. And at each level, there's a new forgiveness. And there's extra things that you realize, and you're like, okay,
I
this is
completely
part of what I've inherited, and these are the bits I choose not to carry with me. And, this is how I get to, make like changes and repairs. Um, yeah, and support other people's voices.
yeah, just like you're doing right now. We have a question. Talking about forgiving yourself, how easy was it to forgive yourself? And I'm gonna tell you, were there times where you blamed yourself for what you went through?
Yes, yeah. So at the very beginning bit, I would blame myself for any pain, any upset, any stress that anybody within the whole situation had experienced. I would blame myself for all of it. Um, and then I began to realize that, like, blame and forgiveness, like, they don't exactly sit together.
Mm,
But to take responsibility for my choices, that did sit with forgiveness for me. So I could take responsibility for choosing to say yes in that marriage, and I could take responsibility for choosing to stay. And then I would look at the other side and I go, well, and then I take responsibility for choosing to leave. And then I take responsibility for showing my girls a better role model where now I am listening to myself. I'm listening to my intuition. I'm listening to, um, that like divine guidance. I'm listening to me. I'm listening to that beautiful, like still small voice in me, just the same as Zara was doing as we were moving through that space. And she was silently building up that confidence in herself. And I was doing the same. So, in those like little pauses, that's where I began to forgive myself. to then look at, well, actually, what did I do afterwards? And also just acknowledging that every step, I always did the best I could in that moment. And when I thought you got to put everybody else before you, that's what I did. And I did it really well. I was very good at doing that. I was very good at doing that self sacrificing. And then I now get to choose to be really good at listening to me
Mm,
and looking after myself first. Because for me, when we look after ourselves, we then can give so much more to everyone else because we've taken care of ourselves first.
you're right. You're right. When we look after ourselves, we tend to give more because we have more to give. But when we give everything, we have nothing left. So that's true. And at that, so using that, what would be your advice to someone who is going through or who has been through your situation but hasn't found the calm that you have found?
The first step is acknowledge where you are right now. So just taking a moment, even, it could just be like a few seconds, and just looking at how you see your life now. How does it make you feel? And from that point, you can start to begin to choose what you want to change, what you get to change. Um, and what I would say there is reach out for support. So there are so many people that are there to listen to you. It could be, like your medical or health providers, if you have any of those services, or it can be helplines. It can be like beautiful spaces like this where you can just reach out and just ask for that help because you absolutely deserve it exactly as you are in every single moment. What you're feeling matters, your voice matters, and your like self-care, your self-love, it really matters. So notice how you're feeling, and then if it's too big for you to deal with or it feels too big in that moment, then reach out for support.
Right. Thank you. Your
Yeah.
feeling matters. Everything about you matters. So reach out for support when you need one. You mentioned some red flags that you ignored at the first point of your relationship. What would be your advice to some young lady out there, about to start a relationship? What should she look out for? And if she eventually sees the red flags, what should she do?
Yeah, beautiful and so important. So, first of all, red flags, if you see them, step away as safely as you can and again, get support. So, if it's in a situation and if it's really big and dangerous, then reach out for whatever emergency support is available to you where you are. For things to look out for, it was anger, like definite anger. So anything, and it can even begin with like frustration and just a constant kind of negativity, either towards you, it could be towards sort of young children, it could be towards animals. Each of those different things kind of layers up into different spaces depending on if it's like a slight frustration. But if it's a slight frustration and it's there every single day, it begins to compound.
Yeah.
And obviously like severity of, it could be, sort of harsh language, it could be unkind vocabulary, like unkind words, it could be even like a tone of voice, it can be the volume of the voice. But trust yourself, because you're gonna know if that person makes you feel scared, if they are making you feel like unconfident and starting to doubt yourself, then yeah, that's not the person. You're amazing, and you get to have someone that loves you as you are, because I think that's the biggest piece of work, is to love ourselves as we are. So we get to have relationships with people that are going to support us in that work. not break it down. They get to build us up.
Like that. When you find somebody that loves you, you're gonna go up, not down. Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier in the course of your story how you went back to your mom and she said, "Oh, he's just stressed. He's just stressed." I'm sorry, but he's just stressed and gave excuse. Do you think when someone reach out to a support system and they give them such reply, what should they do? Should they still really trust their instincts, or should they hold on to the advice that they were given? What should they do at those moments?
Trust yourself. 100% trust yourself. And if that's the response you get to reach out to somebody else, because your feelings, they're there for a reason. And I think the biggest thing I've learned in all the different like modalities and different certifications I've done, all the different research I look into like psychology and all these different spaces, when we're feeling something, and you could feel it physically, so it could be like you want to pull away from someone, or you're kind of shrinking inside yourself to stay safe, you're like moving down to make yourself feel small. If that's how someone makes you feel, that's not the person, because that's making you move away from who you are, not standing strong and taking up your space where you are for being who you are. So if someone's like even giving you that response back, yeah, then be reaching out for somebody else, because you're gonna know, you really will.
All right, you're gonna know. You're gonna know absolutely. And let's wrap it up on this part of it. On finding love again. How hard or how easy is it to find love again, and how do you let your heart open towards love again?
So for me, it's like it's really linked, because it's that loving yourself first. And I think my biggest lesson was that when you really love yourself first and you allow yourself to be loved, you can then love others so much more. It's like, it's really amazing. So you get to, first of all, love you.
Mm,
And whatever journey that's going to take is going to be different for everybody. And it could even be that you begin to love yourself through letting in someone else's love for you. And that could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a beautiful animal companion. Um, like it works, whoever, whomsoever, whatever species they are, like allowing yourself to truly be loved
yeah.
exactly as you are. No, oh, I can be loved when it's, you get to be loved right now,
Mm,
exactly as you are. In every single messy moment of being ourselves, we get to be fully loved, completely and unconditionally. And if you're not sure where to begin, if there's, say if there's anywhere near you with like an animal like rescue center, anything like that, that you can get into and you can spend some time with those animals, they're going to give you that unconditional love. And that can be like a really beautiful place to begin. Or as you said, like a great friend, a great family member, maybe somebody in this beautiful space. Just allow yourself to receive that love, and then you're going to know how it feels. So then as you start to look out for a new partner, a new relationship, you know how those feelings are, and you begin to know who you are.
mm,
And then you know that when that other person is supporting you as you and loving you as you, not you when you give them something, not you when you do this for them, you
for you.
always, yeah,
So
then that's the
for you.
person.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you so much. So, going through your biography, it was burnouts, and which led to some miscarriages, and you had some other health issues. How were you able to manage all those things, and how did your healing come about? Just for people who are watching, and are going through some health challenges right now. What did you do? How did you do it? Who was there for you?
Um, yeah, so thinking back to each thing that happened, as I was speaking earlier, I kind of glossed over them. I said, oh, firefighting. And that was all these different things. So for me, that showed up as miscarriage, that showed up as disordered eating, it showed up as, yeah, just like a really big sort of loss of identity and loss of confidence. So the way that I initially dealt with them was just keep going. Just keep going, just keep striving, being resilient and keeping on going. And then as I began that work rehabilitating Zara, I began to realize like the value of myself, and that actually each of those different experiences, they'd stacked up, just as her sort of trauma had stacked up from
Yeah.
being, like caught on the street, and then she ended up in a kill shelter, and then she was moved over to the UK, and then she was like hiding. And so each of those experiences I went through, I realized I was doing the same. I just battened down my hatches, and I was just like, yeah, I'm here for the kids. Um, but then moving through, stepping out of that relationship, beginning to choose myself, then enabled me to begin to heal each of those areas and to actually then grieve them, which is what I've noticed. Like the more kind of calm and confident I've become, the deeper layers I'm healing. And they do keep going. So the beautiful thing about self-love and self-care is it's lovely. It's a lifelong journey, and learning about ourselves, it keeps on going. And each layer you heal a little bit deeper. And I believe also, as we're doing that, we're sort of helping the rest of our families heal as well by doing the work for ourselves.
Mm,
Oh, I see that rippling out to others, and I see them then like doing the same things, like beginning to listen to themselves, beginning to take even just a second each day to check in and say, how am I feeling? And then be able to listen to what response you get back. And then, okay, so what do I need? Then being able to give yourself what that is. 9 times out of 10 for me, that's more hydration, it's rest. And sometimes it's being able to talk and release.
yeah.
And sometimes it's being able to sleep to release. And sometimes it's getting outside into nature to release. And then just being able to release those emotions as they come up. But that all begins from noticing the emotion first.
Yeah, that's true. All right, thank you so much. And before we wrap it up, if you were to advise a woman today, what will your advice be? Maybe to someone 22 years ago, just like when you started. So advise someone 22 years old and tell her something.
Oh, okay. You are amazing, and you deserve to be loved exactly as you are in each and every second of your life forever. No matter how messy you feel you are in that moment, you deserve unconditional love, support. You deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be cherished, and to be celebrated, because you are a beautiful miracle, and I love you. We all love you.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. And if you were to advise a young man out there going through your story, what would the advice be to a young man 22 years ago about to be in a relationship? What would that story be like? What would that advice be like?
You also deserve to be loved exactly as you are. And you get to begin by loving yourself first. Because when you take the time to pause, to notice how you're feeling, to notice what you need, and to actually give that to yourself and love yourself, the relationship you can create with someone else will be amazing and
Mm.
beautiful. So start with you, and then that can ripple out to everybody. And if we all did that, my goodness, what a beautiful, loving world we would have.
Aw, thank you so much. Your message is so cute. Thank you. You radiate love, you radiate calmness, and I'm so grateful to have you share your story with us. And truly we are inspired to love ourselves because we believe loving ourselves is a key to loving others. We can give out what we don't have, and knowing that we are missing something, we need to pause, reflect, and that's what you just did to us this evening. Thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful. And this is us saying thank you and thank you so much. Yeah, that's a hug right now. Thank you so
Oh,
much. It was nice speaking with you. We look forward to having you some other time. And maybe we can have you again. Talk to us on self love.
beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Do have a good night rest. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on tonight's edition or episode of Ladies with Stories. It was a beautiful time knowing about ourselves, how to love ourselves, how to spot the red flags and run away from the red flags, and how to, it was just all about how to do things right and never give up on yourself. You deserve to be loved. You are beautiful. You are special. Don't settle for less. For Liz, it was just one question from her colleague. Why are you still breastfeeding her? And you dawned on her, like, it's over 2 years or it's getting to 2 years and I'm doing this. So I don't know what your question may be today. It's why are you doing what you are doing? Why are you where you are right now? What is going on? What's happening with you? What do you need to do right? What is it? What help do you need? Where can we help you? Is there something you want to talk about? Whatever the situation may be, don't give up on yourself. Love yourself, honor yourself, and believe in me, when you love yourself, the right love will come your way. Until then, I remain your favorite girl, Rachel K. I'll see you on the 1st of May or before 1st of May. I think we have another story before then, but we have a story 1st of May, we have a story 8th of May, we have a story 5th of June, and our calendar goes on and on. Please do let your friends and family know that we are back on YouTube. We won't be on Facebook. All our stories will be aired here on YouTube. And if you have somebody that has a story, please do well to let them know. They can always send us a DM, or you can send us a DM yourself, and we are just one click away from saying, come on, live show. Until then, I remain your girl, Rachel K. Do have a good night rest. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Go have fun, guys. Good night.